Alright lads, welcome back to another Monster Hunter Rise video. Today is the second edition in my series on how to build the best series. What we do is we take a weapon and then I give you certain skills, what I believe should go into your builds, and then obviously you can make builds from that. I then give you builds right at the, well, a couple of builds right at the end for you to either use or give you just examples on how to build certain weapons the way I like it. Obviously, if you don't like it, fair enough, but this is the way I like to build them. Obviously, take this information with a grain of salt. But today we're looking at dual blades, and what we first do is go over certain skills and we prioritize them or in terms of rankings. Free prioritization being obviously the highest and like the most needed skill. Two being good skills, but to add when obviously possible into the build. And one not so needed, but it's still nice to have. But first things first, if you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you like the video and obviously subscribed if you're new, because we are going to be uploading 2 to 3 times at least a week on Monster Hunter. So definitely subscribe for that. But starting off with the first skill needed, and that is all the elements. Depending on what you're running, obviously right now I'm against the barrier, and obviously if you're running fire weapons, then you want to make the element go up to level 5 where possible. But because the element is so powerful right now, especially with dual blades, I would recommend getting up to level 5. It is really easy just to gem in these element boosts in the build because they are only level 1 skill slots. So definitely craft all of the thunder, fire, water, etc. Get at least 5 of them so you can just plug them into your build whenever necessary. But trust me, I do recommend this for element builds, especially with dual blades, because it is really effective. I don't know how long it's going to be effective, if it's going to be the, let's say, meta for dual blades, but right now definitely run element. 9 times out of 10 it does beat raw DPS in my opinion. I'm not going to go through numbers, but I'm pretty sure right now element is the best. Moving on to Razor Sharp, I think this is needed in the majority of dual blades builds if you want to obviously keep that sharpness up and do that bonus damage, and I really recommend putting it in like most of your builds. The easiest way to do this is put in charmless hair tie for female characters and Utsushi for male characters. That gives you Razor Sharp level 2, and that's already almost there to level 3, but I do recommend if you are going to run Razor Sharp, make sure you are running level 3 because it does give you a jump from 25 boost to 50, so definitely run +3. Next up is Weakness Exploit and Critical Boost. I'm going to put these together because they work hand in hand together for most builds. This is going to be a recurring theme in these videos. But Weakness Exploit, level 3, and Critical Boost at level 2 is really good. If for some reason you haven't got Rei Zhang's feat to get you to level 2 for Critical Boost, running other pieces to get you level 1 is still perfectly fine, but obviously level 2 is better. Level 3, I wouldn't recommend putting in Critical Boost, as I've already mentioned before in a different video, because getting level 3 requires you to lose certain armor pieces, and then that obviously makes you lose certain skills. So level 2 is perfectly enough. But what this does, obviously, you get more damage on weak spots, and then obviously more critical damage on the weak spots via the critical boost. So definitely go for level 3 Weakness Exploit and level 2 Critical Boost. Moving on to the priority level 2 skills. The first one's going to be Constitution and Stamina Surge. Obviously they act in a similar way, but this helps you with your stamina gauge and making sure it stays up. It is really nice to have. I don't run it too much on my builds because I rather go for the more damage, but if you are feeling a bit uneasy with the pace of the stamina going down, then obviously just fit in some Constitution or Stamina Surge. But I would recommend running the Constitution over Stamina Surge for dual blades builds, only because Stamina Surge right now is really difficult to put into builds, and the most easiest way is to put in the Rakanakadaki feat, and that is a spot where you'd normally put your Rei Zhang feat for the critical boost. So definitely just gemming Constitution if you want to have Constitution. Moving on to speed sharpening, I only actually recommend running speed sharpening if you're running builds without Razor Sharp. Obviously if you're running Razor Sharp, there's no real need to have to sharpen your weapon as much. But obviously vice versa, if you're not, then it's a nice skill to have to keep your sharpness up in fights and just obviously sharpen quicker whenever you can. But like I said, don't run it if you're running Razor Sharp, and it is a reason why I put it at priority level 2 is because there's some builds you might not want to run with Razor Sharp. So that's my understanding, or that's my reason why I would put speed sharpening in my dual blades builds. Moving on to Critical Eye, even though it's not as powerful as it was in Wild, I do recommend running some sort of critical eye just to help the affinity go up, especially if you are running lower end affinity weapons. It's a really nice skill just to have as a passive going on, and who doesn't like obviously having extra affinity. Don't worry about it too much, but if you have got a spare slot, definitely gem it in. Moving on to the two final one star priority list skills. The first one's going to be actually latent power. This is one of my favorite skills in the game, as I've already mentioned before. What this does, after 2 minutes of combat time, your right hand will glow and you'll get an increase of affinity and decreases stamina consumption. Stamina consumption decreases really good with dual blades as it is, but the extra affinity is also just really good with any weapon regardless. But I've only put this at level 1 just because of I think there's better skills which go well with the dual blades. But once again, if you are running, let's say, Zingoga's head or chest, you get it passively. So if you've got it, it's nice to have, but I wouldn't go out of my way just to get this skill. Okay, last but not least, I've put a niche skill in here, which is still good for dual blades, but just not essential, and that is handicraft. And I think it's a really nice skill, and I've really liked handicraft in the past. But right now it hasn't got a place just because there's only a couple of armor pieces which actually has handicraft in, and those pieces are like arms, and you need arms for certain things, for certain skills right now. And I think protective polish works really well with handicraft, and because protective polish isn't really a thing right now either, I just don't think handicraft is shining. But I think in the future, if these two cells get better armor pieces, or it becomes a gem, I'm pretty sure it's not a gem right now, then I think handicraft will become a lot better, especially in dual blades. Alright lads, as mentioned before, I'm going to give you guys just a couple of builds with the dual blades. The first one is just going to be a DPS powerhouse build. There is no razor sharp, no constitution, nothing like that for passive skills to help you actually have better stamina or have better sharpness, just pure damage. As you can see here, we have the attack boost level 6. Obviously for that lovely attack of 8% plus 9 as well, which is really nice, as I mentioned in my previous video. Obviously weakness exploit paired up with critical boost is obviously a must in most builds at the moment. And then we have latent power level 3, which is really nice when it is active. We get a nice infinity increase by 30% and stamina depletion or reduction by 50%. Just remember, this build has got a really big downside of not having no constitution at all, and obviously no razor sharp. So I would recommend gemming in speed sharpening, at least in this build in particular. Obviously because you might want to keep your sharpness up, and you are going to lose your sharpness pretty quickly with this particular build. Moving on to my other builds. As you can see right here, we have ice, fire, thunder, water, dragon. They're exactly the same. Subpar a couple of passives, which is either a constitution or whatever, but regardless, as you can see here, it's pretty much the exact same. One might have a bit more critical eye just because I can gem it in because of the weapon, but we're going to use the ice ones for example. Have a little look over here. Obviously we have the ice attack to go with the ice weapon. This is like a must-have for element dual blades. Element dual blades are actually the way to go at the moment. I recommend using element over raw DPS for dual blades as of now. So I do recommend you building a class similar to this. The one that I just showed you before is still good, but I just recommend this over that one. Obviously, so yeah, we have the ice attack level 5 for the bonus ice attack of 20% plus the bonus 4. The razor sharp level 3 allowing us to keep our sharpness high as for as long as possible by 50%. Critical eye is really nice to have, obviously more affinity. Weakness exploit again with the critical boost. Then we have latent power level 1, and then we actually was able to gemming constitution, which is really nice for that. Listen to even only 10% is still nice for a little bit more stamina depletion. If you want to not run only level 1 constitution, by all means you can change the legs of all these builds to Ragnar Kadaki. Only problem with this is that obviously, also that's Kadachi, I apologize. Ragnar Kadaki over here. The only problem with that is that you lose your critical boost, but you do get constitution and stamina surge up. So, but I do recommend going for that if you are having a hard time, obviously judging your stamina. They're the builds guides. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely leave it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are new, because we're going to be releasing more content, as I've already mentioned, in upcoming days. But once again, thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video.